probably one of my most important values right now is freedom of speech.
Since this, I think this is a good point to talk about your red hat. Since going viral after talking to the two Canadian feminists, I've seen you interviewed by a lot of people, and I've seen you interview quite a few people. What are the main points you're looking to advance and get out into the ether? What are the needs that you see that need to be addressed by someone like you, Jeff?
Yeah, number one, probably one of my most important values right now is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. And that includes speech that you may not like, that speech that you may even be offended by. I think that the reason why we're becoming more politicized, more divided, unable to understand certain perspectives is because in each field, it seems like there's things that you're allowed to say and things that you're not allowed to say. In dating, it's very obvious and clear. Relationships, dating, and even just between this thing between men and women, socially, it's not acceptable to point out things that women do wrong for some strange reason without being labeled something misogynist, hates women, gay. That's been something that's definitely influenced college departments. It's influenced social media. It's influenced even just relationships. Men will say like they're living lives growing up with their mothers and even with the women they're with, where a lot of these people don't apologize. A lot of them don't take ownership for things. They're used to living in a world and environment where if something's wrong, it's just the guy's fault. So when a relationship ends, when a marriage ends, when there's an issue, well, what did he do? And that's just the built-in assumption. She's innocent until further notice, and he's guilty automatically. That's what I've been sensing as a trend. So like I'm trying to actually help us with course correcting and saying, no, we're actually allowed to talk about anything. We actually should be allowed to be open to information or new ideas or new perspectives. And that's first on the list is without freedom of speech, that means we now have censorship. And when you start with censorship when it comes to sex, censorship when it comes to race. So the reason why, to some degree, a lot of people are now talking about Black fatigue. I have my personal views on it, which I hope to touch on another time. That's a response to an era where a huge percentage of people around the country felt like for the longest time, if they ever pointed out something Black community or Black individuals was doing specifically, they automatically were being called racist. If you speak on the undocumented situation and it's not in the affirmative of being open to open borders and fine with people who came here illegally still being allowed to stay, if you speak on anything about that and it's not positive, now you hate immigrants. So what I'm learning and realizing is there are nefarious groups who are picking within each field and each major topic and saying, if you don't consent and agree and affirm whatever the current standard is in this area, now all of a sudden we need to attack you. You're not allowed to say that. We need to now come for your license, come for your job, come for your resources, sue you into oblivion, and try to control you until you shut up and remain and get back into compliance. That's a real thing. And I think my channel is trying to approach it from more of a professional but diplomatic way. Of instead of just being like, I'm going to go full red pill and just say it how I need to say it. I still got a job. You know, I still have a family that depends on me, and I'm not rich yet. So, so you know, I have to look at these things through the lens of I see that this is a major issue, and if we don't believe in the concept of freedom of speech, how can we ever get to the point of us actually hearing each other and listening? So that's like number one numero uno of like what my channel is about and why it is that I think that that's like such an important thing that I think more content creators need to be mindful of. That's first on the list. The second is the divide between men and women. I think that, yeah, there's going to be people who just feel like when you say something I don't like, they're going to interpret that as you hate me or you hate the group that I represent. But there's also going to be more reasonable people who's going to acknowledge that women aren't always right and men aren't always wrong. And that's okay. And in order for us to improve on this, somebody has to continue to speak on it. Somebody has to bring it up. But the difference is in comparison to a lot of, I think, reaction videos, or sorry, reaction channels, myself and others that's a little bit more proactive in this space are trying to also come up with solutions, come up with strategies, come up with legitimate suggestions of this is where we are, this is how we got here, and this is what we can start to do about it on a group level, on an individual level. And the last piece is if you take the dividing issues like relationships, politics, philosophical views on different things, as well as the need for freedom of speech. If you then invite people into your space, especially like people who I do interviews for, to be able to give them a space and platform to introduce that to my audience and then push for us to start to read more and not just get all our news and information from social media and just whatever it is that we're watching, but also like get back to reading. I think that's the best that I could do of helping to influence culture a little bit. I know I can't change the world, but I know that there's people who bought a book this year who haven't read a book in maybe 5, 10 years. I know that there's people who literally reached out to me and said, I now understand my husband in a way that I never thought before, or I'm going to take that approach and try it with my girl. That's what this was about, or wow, I used to think this about the people who voted so differently to me. And now I see it from a whole new lens. And now I don't see them as subhuman. Now that I see them as just my neighbor who has a different set of things that are a priority to them. And if that's my impact with this channel, then I'm grateful.